Turbo and 2K show.
What is up, 2K crew? It is that time of the week again. Yes, I am super excited about today. Coming up to the holiday season, I know we talked about doing this on Thursday, but it looks like Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, all going to be on Thursday. So I'm not sure exactly uh, how the production schedule is going to look for the remainder of the year. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, there's plenty more to get excited about. We got a lot on deck. We've got the Bills Texans up on the big screen. Should be a great game. We'll see if Josh Allen continues his dominance from the three passing touchdown, three rushing touchdown performance he had last week, and kind of see if the Texans can get a running game mounted against this Buffalo defense. But before we get into that, thank you guys and gals for watching over on X or Twitter, or watching over on YouTube, or on our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/2K crew. Answer a couple questions to make sure you're not a robot, and we'll get you in. We got a great community over there, and it is truly awesome. And for those of you listening on the audio side, whether you have us in your ears on the treadmill or on the drive to work, we truly appreciate all you guys and gals, because you are the OGs. So yeah, got plenty of news to get into. We kind of started the show last week talking about some of the MLB awards, the Cy Young MVPs. I'm going to want to expand a little bit more on that, as well as we've kind of had some qualifying offers being accepted, some rejected. Kind of go over a few of those, and we've got college football playoff. Let's take a peek at the updated bracket. We do have NFL and college football previews coming to you, and of course we have our power rankings and the paycheck and onions. So let's get into the news and notes here, ladies and gentlemen. And was it last week or 2 weeks ago, we kind of had the breaking thing with I want to say it was 2 weeks ago, with all the gambling busts and arrests. And because last week we talked about the Michigan State vacated wins, but this one I'm kind of confused about, just because ESPN was the only one that reported this, and I've only seen it once. And ESPN's a pretty credible source here, 2K crew, but they tweet out 14 people were charged for their roles in a multi-million-dollar illegal sports betting ring that involved college athletes and had links to organized crime, New Jersey authorities announced Thursday. This was a week ago today. The NCAA is aware of the charges and is looking into the case, according to a spokesperson. So maybe because the NCAA hasn't really dug their teeth into this as to why it just kind of got pushed under the rug. But again, yet another black eye. And for those of you that are gonna, I've had a couple people online say, well, you complain about all these illegal betting rings, but you give your picks, and it's like, yeah, I do mine legally. I do mine legally and responsibly. Hashtag FanDuel. But it with this comes the organized crime part of it, the pushing the envelope part of it, and it's just going to be there. And it's going to be there whether FanDuel, DraftKings, insert name of sportsbook online exists or not. It's going to be there. Look how many gambling rings there were and all kinds of other shit that happened even prior to pretty much every single state, aside from if you're at a casino, being allowed to bet on sports. So it's nothing new. It's more accessible. So with more access comes more scandals and things like this. And when you're talking about, especially now with the NCAA, excuse me, and college athletes, we're getting it. With NIL, they're getting paid, and it didn't say what sport these guys or girls were playing in, but it just goes to show you that it's becoming more and more prevalent. And I'm I'm kind of curious to see what not only the NCAA does and kind of all organizations moving forward. I mean, we've had the MLB, we've had the NBA, now we have college athletes. The NFL is kind of the only one so far without any connection to weird shit like this. Yes, we've had football players be suspended for betting on sports, whether it was NFL or not, inside inside locker rooms, inside team facilities. So we've already kind of experienced that. Just talk to the Indianapolis Colts, but it's kind of seeming like that's going by the wayside, or perhaps the athletes are just getting smarter and they know how to get around it. So it is what it is. Am I throwing my hands up and saying this is a huge revelation? No. No, just something to keep an eye on. Just something to keep an eye on. Well, I kind of teased it in the open talking about last week as we were going live, the MVPs were announced in baseball, and I kind of touched on a little bit just how fantastic and unusual and never before happened a lot of this stuff has with both Shohei and Aaron Judge. But just to kind of put things into perspective when it comes to Shohei, I got a couple tweets here. This is from the Underdog MLB. Excuse me. Players with 3 or more MVP awards. Barry Bonds is leading the universe with 7. Shohei has 4. Aaron Judge, Mike Trout, Albert Pujols, A-Rod, Mike Schmidt, Mickey Mantle, Yogi Berra, Roy Campanella, Stan Musial, Joe DiMaggio, and Jimmy Fox all have 3. So last year, Shohei got into this 3 MVP club. Now he sits alone in the 4 MVP club, only behind Barry Bonds at 7, which leads to I believe Bonds won his 4th at age like 36, and Shohei won his fourth at age 31. So you have to question, I I don't think it's I don't think you're doing the question justice if you just ask, well, is Shohei going to pass Bonds? I think it's when. When does Shohei pass Bonds? Because if you look at who else could be MVP, I was even standing on the soapbox for Kyle Schwarber to get more MVP love, and Shohei was unanimous yet again. So it just goes to show you that there isn't anyone in his stratosphere. Now, if you look at Judge, on the other hand, he was not unanimous. And with players, like Bobby Witt Jr., who had a quote unquote down year, even though was absolutely amazing. Was he as good as Judge? No. But there seems to be a more heated race over in the American League, in particular with Shohei now playing in the National League. So we're not going to get the whole, Ohtani Judge kind of alternating back and forth. If that were the case, if Shohei would have went to somewhere in the American League or for whatever reason stay with the Angels, but it just goes to show you that now that and I think that was kind of part of it. He wanted to go to the National League, so there really isn't a DH in any part of baseball, but to separate himself from Aaron Judge to kind of get to these, personal watermarks here, and he's going to be checking at least a couple more World Series. You have to think, and this year his wasn't his best, batting average year, wasn't his best home run year. That was last year. Without him pitching. So now that he's, going into an off season where he's healthy, and we kind of saw the glimpses of him being back as far as the pitching is concerned, even though I will continue to stand on the soapbox of I would not give him much more leash as a pitcher. Give me the 50-50 guy every single year. If you happen to flirt with 60-60, that's even better. But to me, he's more important as a hitter than he is a pitcher, especially in that lineup. So one more Shohei here before we stop glazing him. This is from Codify. Getting back to the unanimous part, No player in MLB history has won an MVP award unanimously in more than one season, except for Shohei Ohtani, who has now done it 4 times. It's completely ridiculous. And Codify, I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. Now, the only thing that worries me is the Shohei fatigue, which, if you're any fan of baseball, yes, it just seems like he has blown through every single accomplishment that's been presented to him. World Series, check. MVP, check. I mean, Cy Young next. I mean, that's about the only thing left, unless he continues on this. Well, not unless, but he will continue on this MVP streak, whether it's 4, 5, 6 in a row. Don't really think that's going to happen. But I honestly think that the only thing that's going to prevent him from getting to surpassing Barry Bonds is going to be injury. And you could say the same thing for Aaron Judge on the other side. But like I said, there's more players, in my opinion, that could step up and challenge him to over. And there's with his injury, both him and Shohei have kind of been banged up, but Shohei's been more on the pitching side rather than the hitting or fielding side. Whereas Judge, it's been, when he's hurt, he can't even hit. And we kind of saw that at the end of this season when he had the elbow thing and still trying to hit, but really couldn't throw. And then once they got into the playoffs, his arm was just garbage. So we kind of saw it take away some of that luster that he had. But both these players have past injury issues. How much longer are they going to sustain this? And I think with Shohei's kind of dominance in the NL as compared to Judge's, albeit great accomplishments, I just think there's more talent in the American League that can challenge Judge for upcoming MVPs. Just my thought. Let me know if I'm completely and utterly crazy on that one. Let's see here. I did not have time to organize these, so let's go. Let's stay with the whole baseball thing here. This is kind of the first free agent signing. I know I've got Jeff Passan alerts on my phone. Every time I look at it, I'm like, all right, well, who did the Red Sox sign? Well, they didn't sign anyone yet that's extremely meaningful. But this is kind of the first big chip to fall. This is from Jeff Passan. Breaking: first baseman Josh Naylor and the Seattle Mariners are finalizing a 5-year contract. Sources familiar with the deal tell ESPN. The first major free agent to sign this winter goes back to Seattle, where he was beloved after joining the Mariners at the trade deadline. So even going back to our preseason predictions, a lot of us wanted to pick the Mariners to win their division and make a run. But what that team was lacking, even the past handful of years, with that stud rotation and all the pitching, was hitting. And yes, Cal Raleigh came out of nowhere and just dropped dick all over the place. And some would say should have been the MVP over Judge. It is what it is. It is by far the greatest hitting season a catcher has ever had, and the greatest hitting season a switch hitter has ever had, home run wise. So I have a feeling that even though without the MVP, those are still, fantastic accomplishments and rightfully deserved. But Naylor was one of those acquisitions that not only helped propel them to the next level to get into the playoffs, but go deep into the playoffs. And like Jeff said, he was beloved by that roster, by Seattle as a city. Somehow he figured out he could steal bases. I mean, as big as Josh Naylor is, I don't think any of us had 30 stolen bases on our bingo card. So pretty awesome. And with the money, which Jeff didn't describe, was for like $95 million, which it's a fair market contract. They didn't overpay. And I think it's a great fit for both, for Naylor and the Mariners. So kudos to them. And again, the first kind of domino to fall, and in this winter. some other ones here. These aren't signings, but these are the players. These are a handful of players that accepted their team's qualifying offer. This is from MLB Deadline News. The 4 players that accepted the qualifying offer today, which was 2 days ago: the Brewers starting pitcher Brandon Woodruff, Yankees outfielder Trent Grisham, Cubs starting pitcher Shota Imanaga, and Tigers infielder Gleyber Torres. And I know for a fact there was a lot of Tigers fans that weren't really pumped up about Gleyber accepting this qualifying offer. But if you look at it, he was this. I'm not going to say it definitely wasn't a career year by any means, but it was definitely a good bounce back year for Gleyber. And bearded Gleyber looked pretty awesome. Was one of the better second basemen in the league. So to get him at, I believe it was like $22 million, not a bad deal. Not a bad deal for the Tigers. Alleviates a need, because if he were to leave, they would need a second baseman. So I really do think he was a good fit there. And so again, I think it's a matter of the two sides getting together and kind of working shit out. Same with Imanaga in the Cubs. You know, they were looking for starting pitching going into the playoffs, didn't really get it. So if they were going to lose him and without him accepting the qualifying offer, they would have had to pay him more to bring him back on a multi-year deal. So it's kind of adding insult to injury if you do happen to let that guy walk. So good on the Cubs for keeping them. Now let's see for the Cubs. Do you re-sign Kyle Tucker? Which, you know, I've talked at great lengths. I don't see happening. But with the looming lockout next year, who knows what's going to happen? And out of all the free agents, Kyle Tucker is going to be the belle of the ball. However, is going to garner the highest paycheck. So I have a feeling he's going to be he's either going to be one of the firsts to sign, because there's going to be a team just overwhelm him with an offer, whether it be the Cubs or anyone else, or it's going to take a little while and there's going to be a team that either reaches and overpays, or he's going to sign like an Alex Bregman type deal, high AAV for the first year with an opt-out, you know, for the next 2, something similar to that, and kind of let the chips be where they lay. But we kind of talked about it a couple weeks ago. This really isn't a deep, especially on the position side, not a really deep or spectacular free agent class. Starting pitching and pitching in general is a different story. So gonna be interesting to see. And now, you know, obviously we can check off Josh Naylor. Let's see, what else do we have here? I think that's all the baseball we have. Let's check in with the city of Detroit. The city of Detroit. This is from Natalie Sparbach. The Red Wings are in first place. The Pistons are in first place, winning 11, which I believe, 11 straight. The Lions are in third place in the North and have a record of 6-4. Detroit really is in the upside down. And Lions have a big game this weekend. Big game this weekend after kind of laying an egg against the Eagles. And, you know, we'll get to that kind of later in the show here. But yeah, it's a good time to be a Detroit sports fan. And it looks like the Bills have gone up 6-0. They haven't kicked the field goal or the extra point yet. 6-0 over the Texans. And it looks like they let James cook. See about some other news here. All right. Well, continuing here. This is from Bussin' with the Boys. Shedeur Sanders will start Sunday versus the Raiders. And this came about from last week with him having to go in for injury. And the whole controversy started about, you know, he looked terrible. He looked absolutely terrible. And a lot of folks were saying that, well, that's because he hadn't received a single rep with the first team. And, of course, that led to all the talking heads on ESPN and anywhere else you could look saying this is kind of ridiculous. You know, usually there's time at the end of practice, you know, 5, 10, 12 plays where the second string quarterback gets in. So at least the everyone else on the offense can get to know their cadence and everything like that, their tendencies. So does it shock me if that's true? No, because it's the Browns, and the Browns do what the Browns do. So should that shock anybody? I really don't think so. So there were two sides to this camp. There was the side that's like, all right, we're gonna see how absolutely terrible this kid is, and though that side of the coin got everything they wanted, even though the Browns almost won that game. The Browns almost won that game, not because of him, but they almost won the game. And then there was the side that ended up being disappointed because it was one of those they wanted to see Shedeur just kind of stick it to everyone and be like, "Yep, I really can play in this league." That camp did not get their wish, unfortunately. So it kind of is what it is, and it's good. I'm interested to see how, with a week of practice, if it makes any difference. And I know first start in the NFL, filled in a little bit last week. How much improvement can there be? I think that's the question all of us want to see. So definitely a game I'm going to be keeping an eye on for sure. Let's see here. This was this weekend. This is from the SEC Network. That just happened. Yeah, I had to check my my score app and was like, hold on, 30-3 at halftime, and A&M is losing. A&M is losing, and pitch a shutout in the second half and come back to win 31-30. Absolutely insane, because that would have turned what we're going to get to here in a minute with the college football bracket, kind of turned that on its head. Even though there was quite a shuffle this week, but this would have just been further holy shit. Absolutely pandemonium, which I think a lot of us really like when it comes to this, but it definitely, again, not on my bingo card. This was something that I figured it might have been a close game, but a 27-point deficit going into half, no, I don't think anyone saw this coming. And then to add to that, being down that much, none of us thought that this, and I believe this is the first time in 260 games or some shit that this happened. So kudos to A&M. Kudos to A&M. And one last tidbit here about the Jets. This is from Bleacher Report. This is a fun little stat here. Tom Brady still has more wins than the Jets this decade. He retired 3 seasons ago. The Jets have 21, and Tom Brady has 32. Regular season wins since 2020. Kind of insane to think about. And it looks like if things keep rolling, this could go into next year. So the Jets will jet, I suppose. The Jets will jet. So, again, another very dysfunctional franchise. I also saw something on Twitter that said that the Jets might be checking in with the Chiefs and for Patrick Mahomes in the offseason. Highly doubt that. And one more piece of news here. This is from Pete Thamel. Sources: Virginia Tech and James Franklin are finalizing an agreement for him to become the school's next coach. Franklin has won 128 games over 15 seasons as the head coach of Vanderbilt and Penn State. He led Penn State to the college football playoff semifinals last year. And if you guys watch McAfee, he had Coach Franklin on, I believe it was yesterday, and he's already got the ball rolling. He's already got his quarterback, already got the ball rolling. So I think it's a great hire for Virginia Tech, and probably a good hire for Coach Franklin as well, because no one at Virginia Tech expects a coach to win like they do at Penn State. So maybe the pressure will get off a little bit. He'll bring this program back to where, not saying the Michael Vick era, but that was the last time they were pretty much relevant with Coach Beamer. And then it got to the point where Coach Beamer, the only reason you ever saw highlights was because they were scoring a special teams touchdown, which is what he was basically known for. So I like the hire. I do. And now with all the talk with Lane Kiffin and The LSU job still being open, the Florida job still being open, the Penn State job still being open. It kind of leads you to, what coach right now, if your team is projected to be in the college football playoff, would even consider another job? Because you normally take another job or a different job because it's an improvement in what you already have, whether it's resources, whether it's job security, whether it's you ultimately want to win a national title. So if you're this close with this team, your current team, why on earth would you leave? You have your recruiting all set up. You have all everyone, I believe the first signing days here in a couple weeks. Why why would you throw a wrench into all of that? And yes, we've seen a lot of these top coaches that have been rumored to be sought after for these positions sign pretty hefty extensions. So do I expect that from Ole Miss? I do. I there's no reason why Ole Miss wouldn't throw the whole kitchen sink at Kiffin to keep him there. He seems to be happy there. He seems to love his players. And I'm just curious that, and I understand why the schools are doing the coaching search now, because they don't have one. They have an interim coach, and they definitely want to upgrade and get the biggest, splashiest name that they can to help recruiting, help everything that we just talked about. But as a coach with a winning program, why would you want to leave? That's the part I don't get. I'm sure every coach has their own reasons for things, but whether it's their alma mater, I get that. But it's just kind of weird. Just kind of weird. And I have another one, but I don't I don't trust the source, so we're gonna bypass that one. We're gonna bypass out. For for everyone watching live, do you think Lane Kiffin's leaving Ole Miss? And if you do, where do you think he's going? Well, let's dive into, well, before we do that, let's go to our college football here. And let's address the thumbnail, the title. Well, actually, you know what? Let's talk about the bracket first. Excuse me. This is the most recent college football bracket. Did have some shuffling in the top four. Ohio State, IU, A&M, and Georgia. With the Alabama loss, Alabama has dropped from out of the top 4 to 10, and Georgia has moved up with their big win. So again, reshuffling of the top 4, with number 5 being Texas Tech, number 6 Ole Miss, number 7 Oregon, number 8 Oklahoma. I almost said Ohio State. Oklahoma, 9 Notre Dame, 10 Alabama, 11 Miami, and 12 Tulane. Which, again, that Tulane, might as well just put a sticker over and say ACC, or excuse me, that'd be Miami, because like we talked about a couple weeks ago, Miami, yes, is number 11 right now, just because they have the best record in the ACC, but they have the lowest percentage to win the ACC. So that script might flip here moving forward. And one thing I really do want to point out is, look at who gets the home games. If this playoff were to start this week, you'd have a playoff game at Texas Tech, at Ole Miss, at Oregon, and at Oklahoma. A vast difference from last year, where all the warm weather teams had to come up and play the cold weather teams. So definitely it would be a different playoff game for Notre Dame, considering last year was very, very cold. And I honestly thought that part of it was very cool. So like I said, if just something to think about. Even though Oregon will be chilly, but the other ones, pretty much warm weather. So let's let's get to the most talked about thing on college football Twitter. It is the hatred for Notre Dame. And I'm trying to, because I mean it's very well known. I'm a huge Notre Dame fan, have been my entire life. And when you look at that bracket, and as I pointed out, Miami has the least chance to win the ACC, meaning they would pick up yet another loss, meaning 3. So I understand that Notre Dame and Miami both have 2 losses. Notre Dame's losses have been to A&M and Miami, 2 teams within the top 11. Miami's losses have been to 2 unranked teams, 2 very different. And Notre Dame's losses have been to a combined 4 points. 4 points. And if you're just going off the eye test, Notre Dame is one of the top 5 teams in the country. The only reason they're at number 9 right now is because of those 2 losses. They have, their defense has turned a corner. Have the best running back, if not player, in the country right now in Jeremiah Love. And CJ Carr is getting better and better every game as a redshirt freshman. That offensive line is doing a phenomenal job. We're seeing receivers step up, and it's a complete team. And it might even be a better, I'm not going to say might, they are a better team this year than they were last year. And that team last year was very, very good. The main difference being Riley Leonard was a great leader, a great athlete, tough as nails, a great runner, where CJ Carr is not the great runner, can put the ball wherever he wants to, and I think the receiving core is much better than last year. I think not only was it Riley Leonard not being able to do the normal passing things that I think a lot of passing quarterbacks can do, but I think it was honestly a deficiency in the wide receiver room. And that's one of the things they addressed, and I think they addressed it very well on both sides. And for CJ Carr to sit behind a leader, and just an all-around good guy like Riley, like Riley Leonard, paid dividends, and we're seeing it play out in real time. And you best believe I have a very good feeling that CJ Carr has Riley Leonard's phone number on speed dial. I really do. I really do. So yes, I completely understand your gripe, because if you're Miami, you're like, well, Notre Dame, one of your 2 losses is from us. And in the past, the college football committee has looked at head to head, and they came out and said, yes, we do. Yes, we do. But quality of losses is a thing. Quality of losses is a thing, and timing of the losses. Notre Dame started the season 0-2. Miami, you had the world by the nuts. There were a lot of folks, myself included, saying you were the best team in the country. And yet again, you just lead us in. You lead us in. We want to believe. We want to believe the U is back. Only to be disappointed. Twice. Twice to teams that aren't even in the top 25. So that's where the main disconnect is. And of course, a new wrinkle into the Notre Dame needs to play in a conference. You need to play in a conference. This, this independent stuff is completely ridiculous. You need to play in a conference. Well, with this big, I'm not saying attempted, but proposed acquisition of the Big Ten, at least 10% from an investment firm, and dropping a whole bunch of money into the Big Ten for 10% rights of the Big Ten. There are 2 major programs that are standing in the way of this acquisition. One being the University of Michigan and one being Southern Cal. The 2 programs that have been just adamant that Notre Dame needs to join a conference. And they have come out and said that they do not want this acquisition. And if things are right, when the Big Ten, the current Big Ten contract is up, and I believe it's 2036, they're both going to consider being independent as well. The hypocrisy in the air. You smell it? Okay. We need to join a conference. Notre Dame needs to join a conference. What they do is completely ridiculous. They need to join a conference. Until you decide you don't like things where you are. And maybe we've been doing things the right way all along. Just a thought. Just a thought. Just a thought. I'll let that marinate for a little bit. Let's get to some power rankings before we jump into the college football preview here. Power rankings last week. Let's recap. I had Eagles 5, Rams 4, Pats 3, Seahawks 2, Colts 1. Two of those teams played each other, so you know there's going to be a shakeup in Turbo's power rankings. And this week, let's see here. I got the Bills at 5. That performance against Tampa on Sunday was absolutely phenomenal. Josh Allen put up a performance for the ages, even though he said that he didn't play his best. Yeah, he had one interception, early on in the game, but I don't know how much more dude could do. And now he's down on the ground. That doesn't look good. Looks like he just hopefully he got the wind knocked out of him. Because, yeah, that does not look good. That does not look good. So, yes, Bills 5. I got to put the Eagles at 4, even though I don't like watching them. They are one of the most boring teams to watch. And, ouch. That was a big dude that landed on him. So hopefully Josh will be okay. Score very low. I mean, they beat the Packers, 10-7, and beat the Lions. Very, very didn't score a whole lot of points there either. So defense is very good. Offense, it looks like Jalen Hurts is not an NFL quarterback for a half. And then for the other half, he looks like an MVP. So I can't figure this team out. They go from Saquon last year going for over 2,000 yards to this year barely even gets 100 yards. And we're seeing the increase in carries. So I'm not sure what's changed. And now, Lane Johnson's banged up. So how's that going to change? A.J. Brown can't stay happy. It just seems like a mess over there. But they still win. Even though it's not pretty, they still win. Number 3, I got the Pats. I got the Pats at 3. Still doing their thing. Love watching this team. Drake May, even though he says he doesn't know who the guys on First Take are, I don't care. I love him. Give me Pats at 3. And this Rams team might be the best team in the league. Might be the best team in the league. We talked about Matty Stafford last week. I'll talk about him again. I love this Rams team. Love the Rams. But number 1 right now still has to be the Colts. And the Colts have probably the game of the week, which we'll get into when we talk about the NFL slate. But going to Arrowhead against a reeling Chiefs team, where this Chiefs team could be under 500, 5-6. Is this a must win for the Chiefs? We'll get into that. Some honorable mentions. Seahawks. They were 2. They drop out of my top 5. Sam Darnold cannot play like that if this team wants to be in the top 5. And yes, it's a very good Rams defense that he played against. And they still almost won. So they're definitely in consideration to be in the top 5. But I can't have I can't have a top 5 quarterback doing that. Broncos, again, they're like the Eagles. They win ugly. That defense is phenomenal. But if you're asking me to choose between the Eagles offense or the Broncos offense, I think 99 people out of 100 will take that Eagles offense. And I think that's the main separator here. Both extremely boring to watch unless you really, really like defense and you really like betting unders. So there you go. Lions, again, still love this team. Even after that loss to Philly. I think that was more Philly's defense just having a day in the Lions backfield. And still, I mean, the Lions were in that game. It was not a blowout by any means. So do I think the Lions stink? No. I still think the Lions are very good. I think the Lions will make the playoffs. And then Tampa, again, tough loss. Against the Bills team that is feisty, and it looked like Josh Allen did walk to the sideline. He's just sitting on the bench, so hopefully just knock the wind out of him. But yeah, that is Turbo's top 5 with some honorable mentions. So let's get to some picks. Shout out FanDuel. Hashtag not sponsored, want to be sponsored. Would love to be sponsored. Would love to have FanDuel be the official betting partner of the Turbo and 2K show. And for those of you that don't know how Paycheck and Onions work, I give you 3 games to sprinkle on. 1 game that is I'm most confident in, as in I would lay my paycheck on. And 1 pick is the ballsiest pick of the week, the Onions pick. So let's sprinkle. Let's sprinkle, shall we? All right, we got Oklahoma nope, that was last week. Missouri at Oklahoma. Give me Oklahoma minus 7.5. Coming off that game against Bama last week, they made Bama look bad. And if they're going to continue to play this way, they're tough. Yes, Missouri has a very vaunted running back. It's him and Jeremiah Love being the top 2 running backs in the country. But this Oklahoma team's good. This Oklahoma team's really good. I will lay the 7.5 with Oklahoma. Let's go to sprinkle 2. Texas minus 8.5. Arkansas goes to Texas. Texas seems to be rolling. Even with the hiccup last week. It's a big number, 8.5. But I do think Texas brings it home. Give me Texas. I will lay the points and take Texas. And the last sprinkle, Bears minus 2.5. Steelers at Bears. This is a weird one because we still aren't sure if Aaron Rodgers is going to play. Looked like he practiced today, but even if he does, I believe it's a fracture of his left wrist. Which obviously does not hinder his throwing motion, but what about if he falls? That's how you brace your fall. So how is that going? Even if he starts, how does that affect the game? I'm taking this Bears team, even though Aaron Rodgers is the mayor of Chicago. We've seen it before. He owns Chicago. But this Bears team is good. This defense is okay. Caleb is progressing very, very nicely. He's not giving the ball away. And we're seeing Ben Johnson kind of bring to light the kind of team that he wants this Bears team to be. And I'm very excited. So Steelers defense, who knows? So especially at home, yeah, give me Chicago minus 2.5. So let's talk about paychecks, ladies and gentlemen. Paychecks. We talked about the Colts at the Chiefs. A reeling Chiefs team. Stop it. This is a tweet from Ari Miroff. Chiefs in one score games, 2024, 0-11. I cut part of the tweet off. 2024, 11-0. This year, they're 0-6. So with those two things going hand in hand, this is just prime for the Colts to go down there and steal one. Coming off a bye, which I like even more. To me, it's the easiest money on the board this week. Colts plus 3.5. And my paycheck game of the week. USC goes up to Oregon. Game day will be there. And 9.5 is a big number, 2K crew. A big number. This USC team is good. This USC team is good. And this Oregon team isn't as dominant as they have been in the past. So I honestly think, I'm not sure USC gets all the way there, meaning win it. But I do think they keep it closer than 9.5. So yeah, I'll take USC and all 9.5 of those points. So that is the paycheck and onions. Go ahead and sprinkle Oklahoma minus 7.5, Texas minus 8.5, Bears minus 2.5. Lay your hypothetical paycheck on the Colts plus 3.5, and the ballsiest pick of the week, USC plus 9.5. So let's go back to our college football preview here. Let's take a gander. Let's walk through this slate. Rutgers at OSU. Not from what I looked, there really isn't a whole lot of meat on this bone this week. Rutgers at Ohio State. Ohio State's 32.5 point favorite. Samford at Texas A&M. No line. We talked about Missouri, Oklahoma. Miami at Virginia Tech. Miami's 18.5 point favorite. Charlotte at Georgia. Georgia's only a 44.5 point favorite. Interesting. Eastern Illinois at Bama. No line there. So yeah, it's definitely not a loaded slate by any means. USC at Oregon we talked about. Actually, that line's moved up to 10.5. So even better. Give me USC plus 10.5. Syracuse at Notre Dame. Notre Dame minus 35.5. Coach Freeman has come out and said he hopes that the injured quarterback's peanut butter and jelly time, Steve Angeli, does make the trip. Just because how much he meant to that Notre Dame program, in particular, coming in big points last season to help the Irish win. So hopefully he does come, and it is Notre Dame senior night or day. Yeah, it's 3:30 senior day. Sorry. Kentucky at Vandy. Vandy 8.5 point favorite. TCU. We got Michigan at Maryland. Michigan's 13.5 point favorite. TCU at Houston. Houston 1.5. Oop. Feisty TCU team. BYU at Cincinnati. BYU 2.5 point favorite. Arizona State at Colorado. Arizona State 7.5 point favorite. So like I said, there's not a lot of meat on that bone this week. Not a lot at all. Not a lot at all. So pick your poison. Luckily, it seems that we've got Missouri at Oklahoma in the early slate. We've got USC Oregon in the middle slate at the 3:30 slate. And pick your poison after that. Pick your poison. I was kind of hoping that USC Oregon game would have been at 7:30. That'd have been awesome. That would have been awesome. Let's jump over to the NFL, shall we? Let me make sure here. Yeah, I did get to all those. Let's take a peek at the standings. AFC East, Patriots 9-2, Bills 7-3. The rest are done. NFC North, this is rough. Pittsburgh 6-4, Ravens 5-5. Bengals with the possibility of Joe Burrow being back this week, 3-7. Are they too far gone? I don't know, but they have a minus 106 point differential. Interesting. AFC South, Colts 8-2, Jags 6-4. This Texans team 5-5. Tennessee's done. Denver Broncos, AFC West 9-2, Chargers 7-4, Kansas City 5-5. Like we talked about. However, they are 4-1 at home, 1-4 away, and still have a plus 73 point differential, even though they are 5-5. Raiders are done. Switch to the NFC. Eagles 8-2. Do we want to call the Cowboys done at 4-5? We'll include them. Commanders and Giants are done. However, if you haven't subscribed to Cam Scadabo's Twitch stream, the other day he was streaming shirtless, drinking energy drink out of a cleat. So if you're into that, head on over to Twitch, give him a sub. NFC North, Bears 7-3. It's been a long time since we've been able to say that. However, minus 6 point differential. Packers 6-3-1 with a plus 44 point differential, and the Lions at 6-4 with a plus 76 point differential. NFC South, Bucks 6-4, Panthers 6-5. This Panthers team isn't great, but they don't suck, which is something we haven't been able to say for quite some time. Haven't sucked. Have not sucked. NFC West, Rams 8-2, Seahawks 7-3, Niners 7-4. Brock Purdy had a huge comeback week. Cardinals are done. One thing I did want to get to, or at least highlight, before we move on. Yeah, we're since we started this segment, we're 24-20, 4 units up. Let's go. Let's look ahead at the schedule. Like I said, we've got Buffalo at Houston right now. Josh Allen is back, and they're up 6-3 right now with 13 to go in the second quarter. We got Pittsburgh at Chicago, we talked about. Actually, this line has Chicago minus 2.5. Did I get that right? Yes, I did. Just double checking. Pats at Cincinnati. Again, this could be big. If Joe Burrow does come back, Jamar Chase is suspended for this game, and the offensive line is still the same. So are they going to be able to protect him at all? Is it even worth coming back this year? You have 3 wins. Giants at the Lions. That's got to be a big get back game for the Lions. Minnesota at Green Bay. Green Bay is a 6-point favorite in this one, and I think it has a lot to do with the inconsistencies with J.J. McCarthy. And it's been widely talked about all over all sports media about how you have J.J. McCarthy and you have 9. And when he's not doing well, he's 9. And when he's playing well, he's J.J. McCarthy. Give the kid a fucking break. Last week, I think it was his 5th or 6th start. Give him a break. Yes, I know there's more pressure on him because they had Sam Darnold in the building last year. They had Danny Dimes in the building last year. Neither one are there. They put pretty much all of their eggs in the J.J. McCarthy basket. And is he as prolific as either one of those? Not yet. Do I think he can get there? Absolutely. Especially with KOC. Yes. Everyone needs to calm down. And especially, Dan Orlovsky said he should get a hold of Josh Allen and kind of help, use his throwing coach or whoever got him to throwing the ball into the third row to the MVP that we're seeing now. That progression, I think Vikings fans would be just absolutely thrilled if that happened. But is he a polished NFL quarterback? Not right now. Not right now. And speaking of which, I do have one more tweet here. I thought this was kind of cool. This is again from Albert Breer. Last 8 games for class of 2024 quarterbacks: Caleb Williams, Chicago, 7-1; Drake May, New England, 8-0; Bo Nix, Denver, 8-0. It's pretty good considering last year. If you look at all of these guys, Drake May didn't play a lot. Caleb Williams was terrible. Jaden Daniels was like the belle of the ball. He was the next coming of, Lamar Jackson, but better. He's been hurt most of the year. So, and was playing under a much easier schedule last year, whereas Drake May has that luxury this year. Drake May has that luxury with New England playing an easier schedule because of where they finished last year. So if the Pats end up at the top of their division, they will be playing a first place schedule rather than a last place schedule. So that's just kind of how the NFL works. With Chicago, it was pretty much kind of in the middle. So it is what it is. It is what it is. But Vikings fans, calm down. JJ is going to be fine. Just needs to get some mechanical things cleaned up, and he has he has some of the best targets in the league, so he's going to be all right. Seattle at Tennessee. Seattle should just cakewalk that one. Indy at Kansas City. We talked about. Still, I'm kind of shocked that Kansas City is a 3.5 point favorite, and if I was a better podcast host, I'd have this up already. And let's go NFL futures. Super Bowl favorites. Oh, these have changed a lot. Your Super Bowl favorites as of today, November 20th, from FanDuel. Rams plus 550, Eagles plus 550, Bills plus 850, Colts plus 950, Lions plus 1100, and Kansas City Chiefs plus 1100. So what they're saying is the Chiefs have the same exact odds to win the Super Bowl as the Detroit Lions with a 500 record. Something's not vibing. Something's not vibing, but there has to be something to that because the sports books aren't really wrong a lot. Now, prior to this, the Chiefs had the third best odds to win the Super Bowl at plus 800. So this, to me, in my eyes, this is a must win for the Chiefs. But you're getting a Lions team that was beaten badly last week, and Dan Campbell does not lose 2 games in a row. It's just a fact. Dan Campbell does not lose 2 games in a row. So it's kind of those rock hard place type things. So yeah, this huge game, and in the 1:00 slate, that's the weird part. We're not usually used to seeing Kansas City in the 1:00 slate. Jets at Baltimore should be a huge win for Baltimore. Cleveland at Vegas, who cares? At least, Shador's first start is against the Raiders. He's got that going for him. Just hope Max Crosby doesn't eat him alive, because that dude is legit. Jacksonville at Arizona. Don't really care there either. Philly at Dallas. Definitely a game to keep an eye on. Dallas's defense seems to have turned a corner now that they're getting players back, and some of the trade acquisitions they made are starting to make an impact. And we're seeing Dak just go bananas with his George Pickens. So Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, 2 of the better one of the better wide receiver combos. So if you're Dallas, this is a must-win game, and if you're Philly, this is we want to further decimate the Cowboys game. And line's at 3.5. Philly's at 3.5-point favorite. And the over-under, I mean, that 47.5 is on the, well, it's about average. It's about average looking at all of them. 47.5. I think that's, I'm going to sit that one out and just enjoy watching it, to be honest with you. Atlanta at New Orleans. Who cares? Tampa at the Rams. Should be a really good one. Should be a really good one. And Carolina at San Francisco to wrap it up on Monday night. San Fran's a 7-point favorite. If Carolina can beat the 49ers in San Francisco, that would be a huge win for them. And that would further prove the point that they do not stink. But as I mentioned, Brock Purdy had a major coming out party this last weekend, and just absolutely demolished everybody. So are we going to see that same Brock Purdy? We shall see. So again, should be a rather fun one. Should be a rather fun one. What is this? Oh. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's about all I have. All the fun I had, all the fun I brought, we've talked about. So let me know your thoughts on my on the power rankings. Let me know your thoughts on my picks. And like I said, I believe we've been 3-2 the past 3 weeks. So anytime I'm positive money, I'm loving it. So again, 24-20. See if we can build on that. And should be a very exciting weekend of football. And we've got a 9-3 game. Buffalo just extended the lead. So yeah. Everyone have a great week. I will, with Thanksgiving being Thursday, there will not be a show this next week. If there is, I will let everyone know on social. Maybe I'll pop in on Wednesday and do it on Wednesday, but definitely not doing it Friday and during the weekend. So TBD, but it's one of those I wouldn't hang your hat on it, but if I can sneak away for a little bit, I will definitely put one together. But I think we'll just unless there's something extremely outlandish that happens that you are just needing my take on, we might just enjoy the holiday with our friends and family. And that being said, I always tell folks this: when it comes to Thanksgiving, it's not about what's on the table, but who's around the table. So enjoy your time with your friends and family, break bread, give everything to God, and just have fun. Enjoy your family, and don't bring up politics. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, I will let you go. And as always, Jim Rome, we're coming for you.